Welcome to the Design for Living Big Book Study. Gord and I will be sharing our own experience of how the Big Book has helped us in the removal of our DOC, drug of choice, or actually our substance of no choice. But more importantly, how the directions contained within the Big Book have helped change all aspects of our lives. We will share our pain, successes as it relates to our own journey, and the hundreds of men and women that we have had the pleasure of helping through sponsorship or otherwise. Gord, I, or the THEUDRCAST is not affiliated with any 12-step program. We neither endorse nor discredit any method of recovery. We are supportive of all paths to recovery. We are just passionate about what worked for us. The opinions shared in the study are solely of that of the person sharing them. About 8 o'clock, we'll take a break, 8-ish. I think we can start. So,
Sweet.
We're on step 3 tonight.
Hey, G.
Hi, G. We have printed the original manuscript. For anyone that doesn't have a copy, they're on the back table. We will be going through the original manuscript tonight at my request because I sponsor with the original manuscript a lot of times when I use step 3, when I do step 3. Step 3 is a big step, right? And it's really important that this step is kind of drilled home. And it gets drilled home through the remaining steps, really, is where it gets drilled home. Jesse and I, who I've done many studies with in the past, we're huge fans of the original manuscript. And why is that? For me, it's because for the real deal alcoholic and addict, right? For the guy who's fucking on death's doorstep, who can't say no to the first drink, this just hits in a different way, where the regular third edition of the Big Book just doesn't hit this certain way. And Bill W. wrote the original manuscript by himself, and he was a hopeless alcoholic. It got edited, and the first 100 edited what we read today in the meetings. And I'm not saying that it's like not effective, but I think the original manuscript for a guy like me is what I fucking need to hear. It gives me no wiggle room. Right? A lot of times you hear in meetings that these steps are suggested. Well, there's chapters in the back of the book here, not in the back, but at the back of the 12 steps, to the wives, to the employers, and the family afterward. I think it's suggested to the employers, to the family afterward, and to the wives, right? Back in the day when this book was implemented into society, it was for the whole family. And you can see that when you read these other chapters, and you can see it when you're reading Working with Others. So, but for the alcoholic, it's not suggested. It's like, jump out of an airplane, I suggest you pull the cord for the parachute. Like, you know what I'm saying? No, we need this. We may touch base on a couple items in the regular edition. I'm not sure yet, just to kind of show you the difference. But you will see most of the differences as we read this original manuscript. Gord, you want to add anything?
No.
Okay. Okay, take it away, Mr. Beautiful Reader.
All right, then. Step 3 from the original manuscript. Rarely have we seen a person fail who has thoroughly followed our directions. Those who do not recover are people who cannot or will not completely give themselves to this simple program, usually men and women who are constitutionally incapable of being honest with themselves. There are such unfortunates. They are not at fault. They seem to have been born that way. They are naturally incapable of grasping and developing a way of life which demands rigorous honesty. Their chances are less than average. There are those, too, who suffer from grave emotional and mental disorders, but many of them do recover if they have the capacity to be honest. Our stories disclose in a general way what we used to be like, what happened, and what we are like now. If you have decided you want what we have and are willing to go to any length to get it, then you are ready to follow directions. At some of these you may balk. You may think you can find an easier, softer way. We doubt if you can. With all the earnestness at our command, we beg of you to be fearless and thorough from the very start. Some of us have tried to hold on to our old ideas, and the result was nil until we let go absolutely. Remember that you deal with alcohol, cunning, baffling, powerful. Without help, it is too much for you. But there is one who has all power. That one is God. May you find him now. You must find him now. Sorry. I'm not used to reading the original manuscript. Half measures will avail you nothing. You stand at the turning point. Throw yourself under his protection and care with complete abandon. Now we think you can take it. Here are the steps we took, which are suggested as your program of recovery. 1, admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable. 2, came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. 3, made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care and direction of God as we understood him. 4, made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. 5, admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. 6, we're entirely willing that God remove all these defects of character. 7, humbly on our knees, asked him to remove our shortcomings, holding nothing back. Wow. 8, made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make complete amends to them all. 9, made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. 10, continued to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. 11, sought through prayer and meditation to improve our contact with God, praying only for knowledge of his will for us and the power to carry that out. 12, having had a spiritual experience as a result of this course of action, we tried to carry this message to others, especially alcoholics, and to practice these principles in all our affairs. You may exclaim, what an order, I can't go through with it. Do not be discouraged. No one among us has been able to maintain anything like perfect adherence to these principles. We are not saints. The point is that we are willing to grow along spiritual lines. The principles we have set down are guides to progress. We claim spiritual progress rather than spiritual perfection. Our description of the alcoholic, the chapter to the agnostic, and our personal adventures before and after have been designed to sell you 3 pertinent ideas. A, that you are alcoholic and cannot manage your own life. B, that probably no human power can relieve your alcoholism. C, that God can and will. Would you like to stop there, or you want me to continue?
One more line.
Okay. If you are not If you are not convinced on these vital issues, you ought to reread the book to this point or else throw it away. And we're going to stop there. And I'm going to let Bill talk about this because I'll be honest, I'm not really familiar with this. So I'm going to listen.
Okay. So that was quite different, hey? That doesn't give a person very much wiggle room when you take them through this material and like you're looking them in the eye and you're reading this literature with emphasis. I'll go right from the top here. Rarely have we seen a person fail who has thoroughly followed our directions. All through this big book study, you've been hearing Gord and I talk about directions, the processes. Through the processes, you get the spiritual awakening. Through the processes, you relieve yourself of the bondage of self. So the directions are in the big book and they are hidden in between a lot of fluffy shit. And if you can extract those directions and do exactly what the directions say over and over and over. So there's a line in the step 6 literature in the 12 and 12. It says, any person capable of enough willingness and honesty to try repeatedly step 6 on all his faults without reservation has indeed come a long way spiritually. So what it's saying is, if you're honest and you're willing, and you can try repeatedly, which means over and over and over, to remove these defects, like unreservedly, and don't stop trying on all of them, not some of them. This is the step that separates the men from the boys. Really what it is it's step 3. And then it says, we have grown a long way spiritually. Meaning if you can catch these defects and you fucking follow the processes, you will relinquish it and you will get closer to God. And then it talks about right after that, it says that we are growing in the image and likeness of our Creator. That's what we're trying to do, right? That's really what we're trying to do. Where is this process actually worked? Anyone? No, what step has the process? Step 10. Step 10 has the process of step 3 and of step 6. So I just want to take you there just for 1 second, okay? So we can keep this in the back of our minds. So as we keep going through this fucking study, you will know what I'm talking about, because I haven't taken you to the process of step 10 in the big book yet. But it's really important. If we can drill that into your head right now, it's on page 84. And I might get you to put little numbers in your book. Does everyone have a book? Okay. So on the middle of page 84 in your big book, that's where step 10 starts. I'm just going to read this piece of step 10. And why I'm going to 10 is because 10 is step 3. Okay, and we're talking about the directions. That's a lot of what you heard in the original manuscript so far of what Gord has read. So now I'm going to take you to a good chunk of the directions. Middle of the page. This thought brings us to step 10, which suggests we continue repeatedly. That's what it's saying. To take personal inventory, and we continue repeatedly to set right any new mistakes as we go along. We have what? Vigorously commenced this way of living. This, as we cleaned up the past, we have entered into the world of the Spirit. This is what takes us to the world of the Spirit, takes us closer to working with our Creator. Our next function is to grow in understanding and effectiveness. That's a huge, broad term, but it's all based in understanding humans, understanding ourselves, loving ourselves, and not beating ourselves up with the club of guilt and hate and shame, and same with other people. That'll grow and change as these processes are worked. This is not an overnight matter. Boom. This doesn't happen just because you fucking want it to. It doesn't happen because you go through one set of steps and you do a step 6. And you do a step 7, and you finish your 12 steps. It's not an overnight matter. It should what?
Continue
for
our lifetime.
For our lifetime. There's the word continue again. It's 4 times in that paragraph. So it touches on any person capable of enough willingness and honesty to try repeatedly step 6 on all his faults without reservation has indeed come a long way spiritually. It kind of says that in what we just read, especially with the continues.
But it also,
go ahead.
But it also tells us that we have to grow in understanding and effectiveness. And after this sentence, it shall continue for our lifetime. It's going to give us 5 simple directions on how to do that. So I'm going to read it, and then I'll go back and you can number it. Continue. There it is again. Continue. This is the first part of the actual directions. This is step 10, real directions, starts right here. I'll get you to number this after. Continue to what? To watch for selfishness, dishonesty, resentment, and fear. What happens when you notice that? When these crop up, we ask God at once to remove it. What happens after that step? We discuss them with somebody immediately. And then if I own amend, then we make amends quickly if we have harmed anyone. And then we resolutely turn our thoughts to someone we can help. There's the process, man. The very first part of this process is, what am I thinking? What am I feeling? Where am I selfish, dishonest, resentful, or afraid? But if you're not in tune with your thoughts, if you just fucking live with the best of intention and are trying to like just be a good person or whatever, which is fine, right? But if you can raise your awareness more to fucking see like what you're doing,
You can catch selfishness, dishonesty, resentment, and fear. And if you're aware enough to catch it, then it gives you a process. First one is go to God. Always go to God. That's our first sponsor, always. The second thing in the solution that it says talk to somebody fucking immediately. That's really important. You've heard all through this study us emphasizing sponsorship, pillars, talking to other people, not just about your alcohol or drug abuse, about your life. Because all through my life, self is scattered. I'm resentful, selfish, dishonest, and afraid all through aspects of my life. So as I am talking about things with my pillars and my sponsor, I can see these fears. I can see these resentments. I can see the way that my pride hides my resentment and all these little things that kind of make me sick. And I can bring light to the darkness. I can bring awareness to the stuff that I can't see, which is the first key. Without awareness, fucking nothing happens. But once you're aware, the most important thing becomes willingness and honesty, like the step 6 talked about. And then we make amends quickly if we have harmed anyone. That's a big if. When you look at the board on step 10 in the rooms, it says we continued to take personal inventory and promptly admitted when we were wrong. Most people, a lot of people think that that's step 10. Oh, I'm just supposed to fucking watch out, and when I make a mistake, go fucking make an amend. No, man. That's not going to get you what you want. That's going to get you fucking the long way around to humility. It's the long fucking way around. This is the shortcut. So you're probably not likely going to have to make amends if you're following this process to begin with, because you're going to cut it off with your pillars and your sponsor, and you won't act out. But if you do act out in your defects, because we will, that's when we make the call. And we can do an inventory after we've fucked up, made a mess of something, and then become willing to try to fix it in ourselves. Not necessarily fix the situation, but fix that in yourself. So when you hear in the rooms, like in How It Works, it says we claim spiritual perfection versus spiritual progress, right? We claim spiritual perfection, not spiritual progress. Or no, other way around. We claim progress. What the fuck is it? Progress, not perfection. Progress, not perfection. But it's actually spiritual progress, not perfection. Sorry, everybody. That was fucking bad. Anyway. There's my humility for today. Audrey, kick her out of here, please.
But it's very important to also understand when we're talking about progress, not perfection, that that's not an excuse to make mistakes. We have to strive for perfection. That's what separates the men from the boys. That we'll discuss later when we're talking about 6 to 7. That's what separates the grown-ups from the children, if you will, ladies. I didn't mean to gender whatever it's called nowadays. But you get me. I wasn't trying to be. But that's what separates us, right? You're either striving for perfection, knowing you're going to fail, but you continue to try, or we keep making mistakes and, progress, not perfection. I call that the weasel clause. Eh?
Yeah, I stole that from me too.
Yeah, good. It's a good one.
So the last part to this step 10 process is we resolutely turn our thoughts to someone we can help.
Yeah.
So a lot of us will try to turn our thoughts and we know we're supposed to pray for others, right? Maybe we don't want to, but we've learned through the theoretical aspect of the program, what we hear in the rooms, that we should try to pray for others, right? So most of us will give that an attempt. But when you understand the word resolutely, this is what it means. It means in an admirably purposeful, determined, and unwavering manner. That's what it means. In an admirably purposeful, determined, and unwavering manner, we now turn our thoughts to someone we can help. And what I learned about my recovery, when I kind of thought back about, how I did that process, once I learned that word, I was like, fuck, I used to pray for people all the time. But it would be a 5-second prayer, 2-second prayer. There was no weight in it, really. So it didn't really do a lot. And then because in ceremony and stuff, right, I'm in ceremony and blah, 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 we learn how to pray longer. Like we pray for fucking like hours and hours. But also in the program, I started bringing more longer prayers. And the longer that I prayed for somebody, the more impact that it had to help serve me. And the more that resentment went away. So I always try to teach the people that I'm helping to pray for at least 30 seconds. 30 seconds to a minute. If you are going to pray for somebody, that's fucking admirable. There's purpose in that. That's determined and unwavering. And that will help change that subconscious. So maybe the person who triggered this whole process, it's resentment. By the end of the process, you're actually praying for them, right? And it's much more complex than that, and we'll get to that later. But I wanted to get the directions of that, at least this part of the directions, because there's more directions, but this one's a big part of it. So I won't get you to number it. We'll number it later, and we'll go back to the original manuscript. Okay. I'm on the first line, and that took like 15 minutes. Audrey, shut up. Okay. Those who do not recover. Who doesn't recover? Are people who cannot or will not completely give themselves to the simple program. What's the program? The program is in the directions. The program isn't the philosophy of the book. And once you pull out the directions, and when we get to step 11, I'm going to show you directions. Step 11 is on awakening, right? Everyone knows on awakening. Everyone's told to read it, blah, blah, blah. Out of those 100 lines that are in on awakening, there's only 10 that are directions. If you pull those 10 lines out of the on awakening and you just fucking leave the rest of the fluffy shit alone, it'll change you.
Perfect.
It'll help you.
Yeah.
But we'll get there when we get there. So those who do not recover, people who cannot or will not completely give themselves to the simple program. And there's things to do that make it completely, right? And I think it's in here where you really give yourself completely over, but then through the directions as well. Usually men and women who are what? Constitutionally incapable of being honest with themselves. Why? Because we all are incapable of being honest with ourselves. On page 60 of the 12 and 12, it talks about, garbled by our own rationalization and wishful thinking. We can rationalize and justify the most errant nonsense to suit any of our actions or any of our inaction. It talks about that it's dangerous to go at it in spiritual matters alone. Well, everything's a spiritual matter for us. So it's dangerous to go at anything without spirituality in it. And we don't do it alone. Skipping ahead. They're naturally incapable of grasping and developing a way of life that demands rigorous honesty. Anyone know what rigorous means? Means accurate. So when I ask people what's rigorous mean, they're like, oh, you just fucking give her, like, go. Think about that for a second. Like, really, think about that. How the fuck are you going to just go for it and be honest? It doesn't even make sense when you really think about it. So it's like accurate honesty. So there's processes in the directions that help us keep accurate, right? One of them is our pillars and sponsorship. And when you look at what we just read in step 10, we're continue to watch for selfishness, dishonesty, resentment, and fear. Okay. Selfishness, there's a little bit of an inventory when you do your step 4. You can find some selfishness. Dishonesty, there's no real inventory just for dishonesty. So selfishness, dishonesty, resentment, yep, there's a full inventory for resentment, and there is for fear. But there's a partial inventory for selfishness and none for dishonesty. How do we fucking get honest then? Well, we have to have other people that are ahead of us that are able to fucking see the shit we can't see. That's the biggest reason why we talk to somebody immediately. Because we're not capable of honesty on our own. Because we will rationalize and justify suddenly. The alcoholic at a certain point has no effective mental defense against the first think. It's always the think that gets us into trouble. You know, and if I got an issue with defects of character, it's because I need to fill the void inside myself. So in my subconscious, when I'm not aware of my thinking, I go to get something out of life, but I'm selfish, dishonest, self-seeking, prideful, whatever. So I don't have any awareness, so I fucking act out in it. So I need to not do that, is really what I'm doing. Okay? Okay. So, what are we trying to achieve as we do this rigorous honesty? We're trying to learn how to grasp and develop a manner of living that demands it. So, when I work with people, I say to them, every fucking thing I ask you to do, it revolves around this line. And I say it, learn how to grasp and develop a manner of living which demands rigorous honesty. And so they don't know what I'm doing all the time. So a lot of times, because we talked about logic, it makes good sense in the We Agnostic chapter, you know, examining the evidence of our senses, using reasonable approach and interpretation. And I give them guidance to do this, but their reasonable approach and interpretation is like, well, why wouldn't I do that? Fuck, that's where I get the money. That's where I get a relationship. That's where I, and I'm like, no, man. No, bro, that's not. Because the common sense that we have is based in like a fear, and it's based in our old patterns, and we have to fucking recorrect what we're doing in life. And so I give them a different take on it. Like, no, don't take the job in Fort McMurray. Well, it makes money. I'm going to make a lot of money. I got 3 kids and child support and blah, 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 blah. Yeah, but you've made a lot of money in Fort McMurray your whole life, and you'll always fucking end up relapsing. And you're going to fucking die. Okay, well, what am I going to do? Well, how much money do you need? Well, I only need this much. Well, fucking, you can make that at Walmart. I don't want to fucking work at Walmart. Why would I stoop so low to work at Walmart? Old idea, pride. He's too good for that. Boom, more inventory. You know, it's all in the pride, man. He doesn't want to look a certain way. But little does he know that that's the smashing that he needs, is these kinds of things. So if they're really willing to at least follow my lead, they will, and they'll do the things that I ask. Down the road, like the long road, they'll look back and go, fuck, that's exactly what I needed. And I'm not saying that I'm an expert at this shit. I use a lot of my intuitive thought, inspiration, direction, clarity, and decisions that I get through God to help the people that I'm working for. And I've seen so many patterns, right? And out of all of the people that I can collect data from, if 95% of them do one thing, I'm going to give you the guidance based on 95% of the people, not the 5% that might get lucky. And is it really even lucky? Because they don't learn their lesson. And they never get the spiritual awakening that the other guy can get. And they're blocked, and they never really get that thing that other people can get because they didn't drink and they were able to make the money or whatever it was, right? So learning how to grasp and develop this manner of living is fucking hard. Learning how to get rigorously honest is really fucking hard. It takes continuous inventory, it takes working with your pillars and sponsors, and that step 10 process, that'll fucking catch it all the fucking time. It's always going to catch things for you. So what happens through that step 10 process is every time that you move on with like a resentment that you don't think is a resentment, a fear that you don't notice that it's a fear, self-seeking that you don't know is self-seeking, all these things that you don't really see, eventually you get to a point and you drink because self is all over it, but you didn't know that. And it usually starts with fighting everything and everyone. Okay, let's keep going. I'm going to go to the next paragraph. Our stories disclose in a general way what used to be like, what happened, and what we are like now. If you decided what you have decided you want what we have and you're willing to go to any length to get it, then you are ready to follow directions. At some of these, you may balk. Does anyone know what that means? Stop. Okay. Soft. Scoff. Okay. Anyone else?
To start and stop.
To start and stop. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to give you a definition that I came up with. Anyone know Major League Baseball? Okay, they stand at the pitcher's mound, and the pitcher has the ball, and he's kind of hiding it from the batter, and then you got the back catcher there, and he's giving the pitcher signs, and he's like, gives them the nod. And then anyone who knows the rules of baseball, once you start the windup, and that leg comes like up above a certain point, his knee when he comes into the windup, the pitcher by baseball law has to throw the ball. And if he doesn't throw the ball and his knee comes up, then the umpires jump out and they point at him and they yell balk. And why they're yelling balk is they're like, you fucking didn't follow through and now you're penalized. So at some of these we balked. We didn't follow through. And what happens? We're penalized. Because by doing half measures, it avails you nothing. It avails you relapse, or it avails you a lot of pain. So at some of these, we balked.
So and that could hold true for start, then stop as well. The pitcher started his advance and stopped and was penalized. How many people do you see that start at steps 1, 2, and 3 and look at step 4 and stop? And that's where we lose them, right? Or they make it to step 8 and they stop. And that's where we lose them too. I like what you said. We're saying the same things. There's no follow through. At step 3, very, very important. And it took me quite a long time to realize this and understand it in my soul, that in step 3, the decision that I was making was to follow through with the remaining directions. And that's what eventually gave me freedom. That's it.
10-4. Okay, next paragraph. Remember that you're dealing with alcohol. Let's say alcoholism. Alcoholism is the mind game, right? And it's cunning. My selfish self-centeredness is cunning. My fear is cunning. It's baffling and it's powerful. As we get further into the study, I will highlight that word powerful because it comes from a step 4 piece, which is powerfully, blindly, subtly. These things drive us, dominate us. They insist upon ruling our lives. So I'm powerless over my defects of character. Why? Because the instincts will drive me powerfully, blindly, subtly. And the instinct for more love, the instinct for validation, the instinct for being secure with you people or with a relationship or with my family. It drives me to seek the validation and maybe sell out part of my soul so that I can be accepted. But I don't know it because I've been doing it my whole fucking life. And I don't have any awareness, so I keep doing that. Self-centered fear, self-centered action, self-seeking actions. Like there's self all over it. So that cunning, baffling, and powerful is very important through the defect of character. Without help's too much for us, but there's one who has all power, that one is God. What does it say? You must fucking find him now. For us alcoholics and addicts, this is like a life and death errand. And you want to grow out of your defects? The theory of God ain't going to fucking work. It only works to a certain point. And then it's like, is this all there is? I may as well just drink. So you must find him now. Through the processes and the directions again, he discloses himself to us. Remember in We Agnostics where I said, if you can think honestly and you search diligently within yourself, then if you wish, you can join us on the broad highway. Thinking honestly, step 10. Searching diligently, step 10. Then you can join us on the broad highway. growing closer to Creator. That's what it does. Okay, next page. Fourth line down. Now we think you can take it. Here are the steps we took, which are suggested as your program of recovery. I underlined recovery because I wanted to reemphasize, I haven't in a while, what recovery definition is. It is the process of getting well from an illness or an injury, by definition. What is our illness or injury? Anyone? Spiritual malady. We suffer from a spiritual malady. So what I'm telling you tonight is the process of recovering from a spiritual malady. And when the spiritual malady is overcome, we straighten out mentally and physically. Third step. Made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care and direction of God. Care and direction. How do we do that? Step 10. When we really look at, just one sec, G, gotcha. When we really look at what this program is and what it's trying to do, it's trying to expose what's not the loving part of you. It's trying to expose what is the part of you that's trying to grab out of life to fill that hole. It's trying to expose the defective character. That's really what the program's trying to do. So you don't really need to worry about what's God's will. You just need to worry about being aware of what's your will, following the process, not doing that, and then the results are spiritual principles. So that you don't need to self-will the principles in your life because the principles are the result of the process. So care and direction. So in the 10, I'm watching for those 4 defects. I ask God to remove it at once. I talk to somebody immediately, make amends quickly if I have harmed anyone. I resolutely turn my thoughts to someone I can help, and I usually don't get what I want. That's the deal. And when we read step 3, it says, are these not the things that he wants? We're typically trying to, like, if I have money my whole life and I come in here and like my money's like shrinking up and I'm trying to get sober, I'm going to start pulling the levers of life because don't you know I got to fucking do this? And to try to turn that over is very difficult. So there's a lot of fear and there's a lot of managing and pushing. And that's not the direction and care of God. That's a theoretical God that I'm hoping will give me what I want and I need some money so I don't lose all my shit. That's not turning it over to care and direction. Okay, go ahead, G.
Okay. So what do you do in the realm of, you know, when you've been regurgitated like these steps multiple times, right? But not really getting a thorough understanding of just what you're saying to like seek out your sponsors and like your sponsor or your pillars. And what do you do when do you just go in with blind faith to entrust an individual where, you know, that is willing to help you, but then is it just with the individual self that is not entrusting someone in the program, or when you've been royally, how do I say it in the nicest way possible, not screwed over, or their intentions or motives are not, how do I say it, within wanting to control another individual? Because when I factor it in, it's like, yes, their intentions and motives are to help you to go through the book, and it's one alcoholic helping another alcoholic, but then you factor in, you know, I feel like it's been so watered down or skewed by individuals who basically say, you know, you got to seek an individual with what they have. And I'm thinking to myself, what do they have that I want, right? And if you can't visibly see it, but you got to internally, hopefully spiritually see it, I guess. And that's where I get perplexed with who I seek out. And then it's actually pretty interesting with, you know, the principle of the direction piece that you were just sharing. And, you know, my head's basically just everywhere at this current time, but I'm what do you do when you are seeking this, you know, fully being aware that you have this spiritual malady, and, you know, it's a process that you want to entrust in with another individual, but when you've been, how would I say it, taken advantage of, or been directed in a way that has made me, I would say, basically confused with all the meta-analysis that has been presented to me within this program.
Okay. I think I can give good feedback on that. Basically,
Sorry.
you've been fucked over a bit and you don't really trust anyone or some people, and it's hard to retrust, right? It is. What I've learned, G, and everyone else, the lesson's yours, bro. The lesson's mine. And I've also been fucked over, and many fucking things in this program. You put yourself on the bullseye like I do, trust me, bro. You get people come at you. And it's fine. It became my lesson. Everything is my lesson. And even when I trusted somebody and I thought they were going to help me and they didn't, what did I do? I went back to God. Everything goes back to God. God, I want to change. Please put the people in my life that can help me. Please show me who they are. And they're going to come. And when you understand that some are there for a minute and some are there for many, many minutes, days and years, you don't know who it is, but you got to learn the lessons as you go. And the thing about trust is a fucking leap of faith. And if we don't learn how to trust, then, but also trust won't come if we don't clear the channel through the work in the steps. And so let's say, let's just say blah, blah, blah. I'm not the guy who I am right now. And I come into the program and, maybe I get a year under my belt and I'm sober and I can't really find anyone I like and I want to sponsor me. And I don't really see anything that I want in anybody. But what do I really want? Like, is what I want, like somebody to show me how to make more money? Do I want someone that's going to teach me how to be more spiritual? Like, what is it that I really want? Because everything that I want is going to be based at my level of consciousness anyway. So depending on what level of consciousness I'm riding at will depend on what I actually want. And my subconscious is so fucking scared of losing the things that I think I want that it may not guide me to the person who's going to take me to the fucking promised land. The one who's going to show me the way. My subconscious fears might say, no, I don't want that. I don't want to not have my identity. I don't want to not have these girls in my life. I don't, and that's all subconscious shit, right? Or blatantly, I don't want to give that up yet. And I don't want that. And I don't, so it's really subjective to where the guy is at on his journey and how leveled up he is at that point. And so for me, I looked for people that were living on a different basis of life. Their roots had different, grasped new soil, and I could relate. And then I just had to give some trust, man. And then when I got fucked over, the lesson was always mine, man. And like, I've had people say real nasty shit about me, bro. And I'm to the point now at 10 years, this has taken 10 years, and trust me, in the first few years, I really thought about that shit because I really cared what people thought about me. And now today, I'm like, I don't need to justify myself really to anybody other than my pillars and God. And when I do something that I know is off, I know God sees it, and so I see it, and so it doesn't fucking work for me anyway. And because my channel's been fairly clear for quite some time, I feel the feeling of fucking guilt, shame, remorse, and I don't want that. So I claim the spiritual progress, and I try to fucking grow out of it. Sometimes even it takes months where I feel like not right. But through 10 years of sobriety, I know it'll pass. But if I don't take action in getting well and talking to Paul or some of my pillars about what's bothering me and get insight, then I'll probably suffer longer. But I think I'll just finish with the lesson's always mine, man. The lesson is always fucking mine. And there's always, water finds its own level, man. Water finds its own level. What water level are you going to be? And when I talk about this as a lonely fucking road going this way, when you're the only one going this way, that's a lonely road going that way, because the lesson's yours. And blaming other people is not an option anymore. And all these different things that kind of come into play with that statement are part of the deal. But I think in the deepest part of us, if we want to change, if you have a deep desire to change, you have a deep desire to fucking move forward, the people are going to come. The people are coming, and they'll help you. But they might only help you for a minute, or they might help you for a long time. Yeah. Paul?
Yeah, for me, it's like when you try to help people, when I try to help people, I'm going to make mistakes, right? And they're going to be hurt by what I've said, or I said it in the wrong way, or they take it in the wrong way. And the best thing for me to do is own it. Yeah, I did that. I'm sorry I hurt you, right? Will you forgive me? Can you forgive me? Right? That process of just own it. Like the idea that you can go through this and help people through these steps and not make mistakes is retarded. You're going to make a ton of them. And with a bit of luck, you're going to learn from them. Out.
Okay.
I just want to say something about this as well. It basically tells me, it answers exactly what you asked, G, in the sentence previous to what Bill was just reading. I think that anyone that's asking themselves that same question that you just asked is at this point. Throw yourself under his protection and care with complete abandon. Abandon yourself to God. And that's the only trust that matters. But also, while I was thinking about that, was reminded of something that I just read that was posted by a friend today, and now I understand why. I'm going to read it to you. Are you familiar with the let them theory? It is attributed to Mel Robbins. I'm currently reading this book, and the more I grow... Oh, shit. Sorry. The more I grow, the more I am okay with accepting the let them in my own life and relationships. The following is shared by her. This is something that took me a very long time to learn. I used to tolerate a lot because I didn't want to lose people. But I learned the hard way. If they were really my people, they would never treat me like that. Don't make the mistake of being so understanding and forgiving that you overlook the fact that you're being repeatedly disrespected. Let them be upset. Let them judge you. Let them misunderstand you. Let them gossip about you. Let them ignore you. Let them be right. Let them doubt you. Let them not like you. Let them not speak to you. Let them run your name in the ground. Let them make you out to be the villain. Whatever it is that people want to say about you, let them. Kindly step aside and let them. I live in God's world today, and that doesn't mean that I don't make mistakes. That means that I do my best, and when I make mistakes, I try and correct them as much as possible. And guess what? Gossiping about people is occasionally some of the mistakes that I make. I am fucking human. I do say shit about people I judge from time to time. I'd be a liar if I didn't tell you that right now. But also, as God is my witness, I try and correct that and make amends wherever possible. I don't like to be talked about. I don't like how that feels. I don't like people trashing me, but it happens. One of the greatest things that I've been able to remember is that these rooms are filled with sick people. Mm-hmm. We're all sick. And God is the one that heals us. So abandon yourself to God. That's the trust that matters. The rest will come. That's all I got.
And that abandonment for us comes through the steps, right? And gee, as we keep going, there's so much more to unpack with that little question. That was a great question. And there's more to unpack as the step 4, 5, and especially 6 comes up.
Yeah.
So I'm going to skip ahead before break, and I do want to give Gord a quick little shot at here, but I want to finish a couple things. Number 12, having had a spiritual awakening. No, sorry, number 7, sorry. Humbly on our knees. Asked him to remove our shortcomings, holding nothing back. When we did the end of the We Agnostics chapter last week, I said that was a step 7 line. He offered himself to his maker, then he knew. That's the kind of surrender we're talking about, is this step 7 surrender, which you will understand way more at step 7. It's a fucking full surrender, step 7, man. Like, you really do want to fucking change when you see how step 7 is written, but it comes through the work in your step 6. The step 6 work is me trying to fucking do the step 3 decision.
Yeah.
Number 12, having had a spiritual experience as the result of this course of action, we tried to carry this message to others, especially alcoholics, and to practice these principles in all of our affairs. A little different than the other version. And then the A, B's, and C's, next page, that you are an alcoholic, cannot manage your own life. Probably no human power can relieve your alcoholism, that God can and will.
Period.
God can and will. And it's you may find him now. No, you must find him now. And here we are, that God can and will. If you're not convinced of these 3 vital issues, you ought to reread the book to this point or else throw it away. That's pretty straightforward. Like Bill W. is like, if you don't get this right here, right now, go back to the start and get this, right? And that's why we're doing the original manuscript, because if you don't get the God part can't be a theory,
Yep.
He has to work through you, then reread. That's it.
Yeah, I love this. Thanks for sharing this with me, Bill. I'm learning quite a bit about this. I love this. I don't have a lot to add. I really don't. He said it all, really. You know, I understand that I'm an alcoholic. I can't manage my own life. I understand that no human power can relieve my alcoholism. How do I understand that? Well, the previous 3 chapters have taken me through and helped me realize that I am completely powerless, that I have no help, that I am beyond human aid, right? So it's pretty obvious. And God can and will. I mean, just period. That's straight to it. I got nothing to add. Like, this is really straightforward shit. I need God, and I need to ask him to help me, and I need to commit to going through with the rest of this thing. That's it. So enjoy the break. We'll come back at what?
Later.
Quarter after? 20 after? What are we doing?
Quarter after, 20 after. We'll get back to the podcast in a second. The opinions expressed on this podcast are solely of the guest sharing or myself. We have no affiliation with any 12-step or recovery program. And if you do like our work, please consider visiting BILLWARDLIFE and supporting what we do. Now back to the podcast.
Hi, everyone. How are you? We're back. And everyone online, you're back too. Dion and Crystal, you guys are always so happy. I love seeing you guys on here. All right. Well, I think we're going to get carried on, right? So we ended at, if you are not convinced on these vital issues, you ought to reread the book to this point or else throw it away. There's no real room, hey? No real room. So I'm going to read. If you are convinced, you are now at step 3, which is that you make a decision to turn your will and your life over to God as you understand him. Just what do we mean by that, and just what do we do? The first requirement is that you see that any life run on self-will can hardly be a success. On that basis, we are almost always in collision with something or somebody, even though our motives may be good. Most people try to live by self-propulsion. Each person is like an actor who wants to run the whole show, is forever trying to arrange the lights, the ballet, the scenery, and the rest of the players in his own way. If his arrangements would only stay put, if only people would do as he wishes, the show would be great. Everybody, including himself, would be pleased. Life would be wonderful. In trying to make these arrangements, our actors may sometimes be quite virtuous. He may be kind, considerate, patient, generous, even modest and self-sacrificing. On the other hand, he may be mean, egotistical, selfish, and dishonest. But as with most humans, he is more likely to have varied traits. What usually happens? The show doesn't come off very well. He begins to think life doesn't treat him right. He decides to exert himself some more. He becomes, on the next occasion, still more demanding or gracious, as the case may be. Still, the play does not suit him. Admitting he may be somewhat at fault, he is sure that other people are more to blame. He becomes angry, indignant, self-pitying. What is his basic trouble? Is he not really a self-seeker, even when trying to be kind? Is he not a victim of the delusion that he can wrest satisfaction and happiness out of this world if only he manages well? Is it not evident to all the rest of the players that these are the things he wants, and do not his actions make each of them wish to retaliate, snatching all they can get out of the show? Is he not, even in his best moments, a producer of confusion rather than harmony? Our actor is self-centered, egocentric, as people like to call it nowadays. He is like the retired businessman who lolls in Florida sunshine in the winter, complaining of the sad state of the nation. The preacher who sighs over the sins of the 20th century. Politicians and reformers who are sure that all would be utopia if the rest of the world would only behave. The outlaw safecracker who thinks society has wronged him, and the alcoholic who has lost all and is locked up. Whatever their protestations are not these people mostly concerned with themselves, their resentments, or their self-pity? Selfishness, self-centeredness, that, we think, is the root of our troubles. Driven by 100 forms of fear. Again, I'm going to say that. Driven by hundreds of forms of fear, self-delusion, self-seeking, and self-pity, we step on the toes of our fellows and they retaliate. Sometimes they hurt us, seemingly without provocation. But we invariably find that at some point in the past, we have made decisions based on self. We have made decisions based on self, which placed us later in a position to be hurt. So our troubles, we think, are basically of our own making. They arise out of ourselves, and the alcoholic is almost the most extreme example that could be found of self-will run riot. Though he usually doesn't think so, above everything, we alcoholics must be rid of this selfishness. We must, or it kills us. God makes that possible, and there's no way of entirely getting rid of self without him. You may have moral and philosophical convictions galore, but you can't live up to them even though you would like to. Neither can you reduce your self-centeredness much by wishing or trying on your own power. You must have God's help. This is the how and why of it. First of all, quit playing God yourself. It doesn't work. Next, decide that hereafter in this drama of life, God is going to be your director. He is the principal, you are his agent. He is the father and you are his child. Get that simple relationship straight. Most good ideas are simple, and this concept is to be the keystone of the new and triumphant arch through which you will pass to freedom. When you sincerely take such a position, all sorts of remarkable things follow. You have a new employer. Being all-powerful, he must necessarily provide what you need if you keep close to him and perform his work well. Established on such a footing, you become less and less interested in yourself, your little plans and designs. More and more, you become interested in seeing what you can contribute to life. As you feel new power flow in, as you enjoy peace of mind, as you discover you can face life successfully, as you become conscious of his presence, you begin to lose your fear of today, tomorrow, or the hereafter. You will have been reborn. I think we'll stop there, Bill.
Sounds good.
I absolutely love this part of step 3. It speaks to me because I am what it speaks of completely. And that was hard for me to admit for a lot of years, even in recovery. Let's go through. If you're convinced, you're now at step 3, which is that you make a decision to turn your will and your life over to God as you understand Him. Just what do we mean by that? So basically, they're about to tell us how to do this. What do we mean by abandoning yourself to God? And we're going to tell you how to do it. It's directions, right? I love this manuscript. I'm going to use this in the future going forward because it says directions. I love that because these are very specific directions. Same with steps 6 and 7, same with step 9, same with step 10, same with step 11. Bill was talking about 11 and on awakening, and it tells me completely how to run my day. There's very specific directions. So let's have a read. The first requirement is that you see that any life run on self-will can hardly be a success. So I need to, at this point, understand that my living my life and me being the boss of my own life, my self-knowledge, my self-will, my understanding of life has all but failed. It's failed completely because that's why I'm starting a set of steps. I have to understand that my way failed. And what is my way? Self. It's all self. On that basis, we're almost always in collision with something or somebody, even though our motives may be good. So there were lots of times in my life where I thought I was being a good guy. But in the back of it, behind it, I was always looking out for me. Even when I was doing something nice for my wife, I was looking out for me. Whether that be a nice dinner, or a compliment, or her recognizing something I did for her, it was always for me. Pretty amazing nowadays, by the way, though, when I do things for her and I don't look for credit. Man, she vibes on that so much. It's really cool. It's really cool. Like, we've fallen in love all over again. It's really amazing. Most people try to live by self-propulsion. How many of you went to a treatment center, and Bill talked about this a little bit earlier, and thought, okay, I'm sober, and you start getting a few weeks sober, and then we want to get a job. Because, that's the next step in recovery. I got to get a job because I got to make money to find a place to live. And, that girl I saw that was at Aventa, she's sexy. I'm going to get a girlfriend, too. Right? Wrong. It's wrong, people. It's wrong. I have nothing to offer at this point. And she doesn't either, to be honest with you. You're in treatment centers, for God's sakes. You've got nothing to offer. But we want to self-propel ourselves, right? We want to will ourselves into success. You guys heard my story about 3 years in recovery, trying to will my finances into success. Why? Because I felt I could do it. I did it once already in my life. I became very successful. Why can't I do it this time? Because God had a different plan for me. God needed me to learn about humility. God needed me to lose my pride. God needed me to feel a depth of self-pity far more than I'd ever felt before so that I could finally recognize it. And then ask for help from a friend. And I was able to see it. And it was beautiful. And it didn't all get better right away, but it definitely started to immediately. As soon as I realized that I was still trying to self-propel myself in regards to my finances, I say I got down on my knees, but I didn't. I was sitting in my truck, tears crying, but I was praying like I was on my knees. Help me. I didn't realize I was willing this myself. I gave everything to you, I thought, but I didn't. I didn't give you this. I'm giving it to you now. No matter what you need from me, if this is how you need me to be for the rest of my life, I am happier than I've ever been. And that's enough. Show me what you need. Show me how to be helpful. My life immediately started getting better. Each person's like an actor who wants to run the show. Now, I'm going to skip over this whole thing. Like, it's really good. It's really good, but basically, for time restraints, this is talking about us running our life, right? And let's take me running a company, for example. Okay? I tell you what to do, and I want you to do this, and I get upset with you if you don't do that. I'm nice to you if I need you to spend a few extra hours overtime and work over in this job. Meanwhile, I'm in the bar. I'm constantly trying to run everyone the way that I think that this can work better. The whole time ignoring what I'm not doing to make it work better. And while I do this, other people have the same desires as I do, to get ahead in life, to be loved, to be appreciated, and they're getting none of that from me. So, eventually, it lashes out at you. They lash back. Eventually, I get hurt by those same people that I thought I was being so gracious to. Why? Because I wasn't being gracious at all. I was being fucking selfish. Period. And when I'm completely selfish with other people, no matter how it looks, nice or shitty, eventually they need to be seen. People need to be seen. They need to be heard. That is a natural desire for all of us. We'll talk more about that at step 6 and 7 and at step 10. I learned a lot about that in reading a book called Drop the Rock, The Ripple Effect, which takes it even further into step 10 area, right? And it talks about those human desires that are perfectly normal, but we either over-exaggerate them or we underappreciate them. They're underdeveloped or overdeveloped. And that is what happens when I try and run my life the way I think it should be run. I have to abandon myself to God. It tells me here. So we got past all of that. Our actor, self-centered, egocentric. We know that. I love this next little bit. He is like the retired businessman who lolls in the Florida sunshine in the winter, complaining of the sad state of the nation. How many of you have sat on a beach and bitched about it being too hot and talked shit about Justin Trudeau? I know I have. I'm sorry, I'm not supposed to bring politics into this thing, but you get my point, right? You get my point, right? Some of you may like Justin Trudeau. I don't care. It doesn't belong here. It doesn't belong here. It doesn't. But you get the example, right? The preacher who sighs over the sins of the 20th century. This is a man who thinks that he believes in God. He does. He's mastered his life after devotion to God. But he sighs about the sinning. Do you guys understand that? God is still just a theory to this man. Bill has talked about that already. God is a theory because he's sighing over the sinners. It's not my place. God is everything or he is nothing. So if God is everything, that means those sinners are all part of the plan. No point in me sighing over it. That was my will. That's my thoughts, my beliefs. Who knows? Maybe Justin Trudeau did help. Yeah. I must be. No, he didn't help there either. Sometimes they hurt us. And they retaliated. So our troubles, we think, basically our own making. Of course they are. I've proven that time and time again. My troubles are my own making. Self-will run riot. So above everything, we alcoholics must be rid of this selfishness. We must, or it kills us. God makes that possible. So now it's telling me again. God makes that possible. This is how I get rid of the selfishness. Because at this point, you may be asking yourself, well, if this is going to kill me, if this is how my life is failing, how do I get rid of it? It tells me right now, God makes that possible. There's no way of entirely getting rid of self without him. You may have moral and philosophical convictions galore, theoretical God belief, but it's not enough. You can't live up to them even if you would like to. Why? Because my life is still riddled with selfishness. I can live telling you that I believe in God. I can live telling you that I believe that I'm trying to be honest and I'm willing myself to be a good person. I did it for years. I had daughters in elementary and junior high, and I served on the board, like on the student council stuff, and I helped out, and I went and changed water tables and sand tables in the kindergarten, and I got, medals from the government for my service to, community and city and province, and I did walks for cancer. But it was all because I just needed to be a part of. It was selfish. The root was selfishness. It's probably what helped me stay on the tracks for so many years. It probably helped why I didn't end up in the gutter faster than I did. It probably helped me stay away from the harder drugs longer. But I was still willing my life, and eventually it failed. Eventually it failed. The God theory isn't enough. Bill's talked about this several times over the weeks that we've been here. And this spells it out, right? Neither can you reduce your self-centeredness much by wishing or trying on your own power. You must have God's help. This is the how and why of it. First of all, quit playing God yourself. In my first couple of years, I had my sponsor say, "Oh, hey, Gord, I haven't seen you for a while. You must be sponsoring yourself." I thought he was such an asshole for saying that at the time. But looking back, he wasn't wrong. He wasn't wrong at all. Next, decide that hereafter in this drama of life, so now they're just referring to what they just talked about, the actor and the show and all that, but now they're bringing it, in life, quit playing God yourself. You got to understand, we've got to understand that God's going to be the director. I need a new manager. I'm doing a shit poor job of it, and I need God. He's a father, I'm his child. I like the agent one, 00 Gord, agent of God. But that's my ego too. Most good ideas are simple, and this concept is to be the keystone of the new triumphant arch through which you shall pass to freedom. Does everybody know what a keystone is? So when a stonemason builds an arch, you know how they build it, right? Up on both sides. Up. Right? And then all of a sudden, they start to curve because it's an arch, right? And they get to that point, and it's pretty shaky, right? Because it's up in the air and it's bent over. And until they get that one center stone that both sides meet at, it's too shaky. But once that keystone is placed, both sides become incredibly sturdy, incredibly solid. So they're telling me here that God is my keystone, or more importantly, my ability to let him run the show is my keystone. If I can buy into that theory, that fact, I should say, not theory, that fact that has been proven by many before me, then my life could get better. It tells me it will. becomes an arch that I pass into freedom because I allow God to run my show. I start to trust God. I start to trust that He's got a plan for me. And it takes time. When I start to trust, it doesn't all come at once. I'd love to tell you that the minute I started letting God take over, all my problems disappeared. That's not true. It's still not true. 9 years later, it's still not true today. I still have problems. However, I have freedom today as well because I've got enough time and experience behind me that I see proof that God exists. I see proof that me believing God and allowing Him to run my life, asking Him to be my boss, has worked. I've got 9 years of freedom because God took over. And hopefully I have many more. You must have God's help. When you sincerely take such a position, all sorts of remarkable things follow. When I had that cry in my truck after 3 years of sobriety and realized it, and I asked God for help, within a week I got the job at Backley Construction. I started being able to pay my bills again. And even that was a lesson in humility. I went in at a less than half of the salary I used to make. But I knew that I had to be willing. That's what God put in my path, so I showed up. If you keep close to Him and perform His work well, it tells me He must necessarily provide what you need. That's amazing. More and more you become interested in seeing what you can contribute to life. As you feel new power flow in, as you enjoy peace of mind, as you discover you can face life successfully, all promises, all step 3 promises. As you become conscious of His presence, you begin to lose your fear of today, tomorrow, or the hereafter. You will have been reborn. These are promises that if I abandon myself to God and let Him run the show, I get all of that. And I can tell you all, I can tell all of you, it has happened. It's happened. It's true. It took time. But God did not fail me. Not once. I love this chapter. I love this chapter so much. It talks about me not knowing what I need. So here we're going to tell you, you need God. And when you realize that, ask Him to help you, and everything will become beautiful in your life. Everything that He knows you need, you'll get. May not be what you think you need, but you're going to get what you need. And most importantly, I need to help people. It's the very reason I'm here with you tonight. Because I owe this to God. Every time I meet with a sponsee, I owe this to God. Every time I take a phone call from a guy that's struggling, I owe that to God. And I will continue to pay that debt for the rest of my life. And I'll enjoy every minute of it. All right, Billy.
Just following up on what Gord said there about our job is to help other people. It's true. But to get there, we have to work ourselves healthy along the way. The example I'm going to give is I see a lot of people out there helping other people, but a lot of them are not well, right? And they get that sense of relief, and it's a good thing. But it's in a sense, being a little judgy, I guess, but more observing than judgy, they're self-seeking because they're trying to fulfill something within themselves where they can't have it naturally. So they do so much helping of others because it makes them feel good because they can't they're not balanced in their life, and they still get angry and they're still judgy and blah, 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 blah. So it's very important that we claim spiritual progress, not perfection, and we move through the steps and we move through our lives, and we're aware of what we're thinking and what we're doing, and following these processes, we get better at serving. And Tom B talks about it on his speaker tape, Emotional Sobriety. If you haven't heard that one, give it a listen. It's on YouTube and probably Spotify. Emotional Sobriety, Tom B. And he talks about the journey to purity of heart. And the steps and the processes within this big book take you to purity of heart, I believe, where you're not doing it for any other reason than to serve. And you're happy and you're healthy and you've been enlightened to what's actually important in life. And once you hit like what's really important, the enlightenment, the other stuff doesn't really matter. But what I found is people that go that route and they level themselves up to the point that it doesn't matter, they get the things that don't matter. And they're able to live with them or live without them. But it's kind of like as the journey of healing goes, whatever it was that you always tried to grab out of life, once you heal what it is, you get it. But because you get it, but you respect it because you're a different person because of the journey of learning how to let it go. So you get it. So it takes me to this piece in, on the 3 pertinent ideas at the bottom of the page. That's where I'm going to start. And I'm not going to go over everything Gord read, but a few little things. Halfway through that last paragraph, it talks about, is he not really a self-seeker even when he's trying to be kind? Fuck, man, when I looked back at my life, and I was always super nice when I wanted something. When I wanted like a good night of romp in the hay with my old lady, my wife, I'd buy her flowers and chocolates and take her out. But I always wanted something, right? And sometimes I just wanted the affection. Sometimes I wanted whatever it was. But I would do things because I'm the actor and I'm trying to run the show. I'm going to do different things so I can get people to do what I want because I want what I want. Okay, kids and wife, I'm going to promise you to go West Edmonton Mall to the water park this weekend if you can get the house in order and your chores are done and your schoolwork's done and blah, 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 blah. And that's on Monday. And then by Friday, we're going to leave on Saturday morning and nothing's done. And I kind of look like a saint when I make the offer, let's do this. You guys just get your stuff done and I'll buy the trip for the family because I'm the one that has the money and I pay the insurance and I do all these things. So I'll take us all out and we'll have a good family time. And then they don't do it. So I'm like, okay, Lucy, get your fucking room cleaned and have it cleaned by 9 o'clock or we ain't going tomorrow. Jillian, same thing. Lila, same thing. Shannon, get your part of the house fucking clean. I gave you a week to fucking get your part of the house clean and do what you're supposed to do. And how's your schoolwork? So now I'm the actor, but I'm trying to get what I want, but I might be mean, egotistical, right? So I'm going to try it nice the first way. And if I get it, I almost look like a saint. I'll give myself a little pat on the back and everyone's happy with me. But if I don't get what I want, I'm going to be a little bit more mean, a little bit more manipulative because I still want what I want, right? And that's kind of how we are. And I often talk, it'll come later in step 6 really, where I talk about mind and emotional manipulation. Maybe me and my wife are not really getting along and it's not gone off the rails yet, but I fucking slammed the door just a little bit on my way out. She's like, comes out, did you slam the door? I'm like, no. I didn't. Fuck, total gaslighting, right? But I was sending a message there, like, fuck off. I'm sick of you. Don't do that shit, right? And then, and then she fucking ignores me. And then she doesn't give me any sex. And then it bleeds into a week. Why? Because I made a decision based in self, slam that door, that later placed me in a position to be hurt. seemingly without provocation. What do? I just closed the door. I just closed the door. So I'm telling my buddy, fuck, my wife's all fucking up in arms and not giving me any and blah, blah, blah. What'd you do? I closed the door. There's no rigorous honesty there. It's all mind and emotional blackmail. And I actually believe, as I tell the story, that I just closed the door and my wife's fucking out of hand. I'm in the therapist's office fucking giving the whole story here, right? But this is what we're talking about. Like, it's one thing to identify your character defect of being angry, but what about these cunning, these baffling, these powerful defects of character that drive us, dominate us, insist upon ruling our lives, often tyrannize us? These are the things that we got to really be acutely aware of, because these things really fuck up our life. But why am I even doing these things? Because I'm trying to fill a void within myself that I want filled. But I think it's going to be something outside of me that fills it. But really what I need to do is I love what Gord said earlier. God gave him the worst self-pity that he's ever had so he could see it, so he could be relieved of it. If he didn't get that much fucking pain, and we call that humility, we call that the groveling despair. That was fucking humility. This guy's used to making big bucks, doing all these things. He could barely fucking rub two pennies together. And finally, he had gotten the message that he needed, and he was fucking humbled to the point where I just fucking give up, man. And he did want to serve, and he surrendered to that part and said, okay, Creator, I'm fucking, regardless if I get a job or not, I'm still going to fucking be here for you. And then that was the week. And trust me, I watched like the year before that week where he kept trying to, I'm going to read it right here. Is he not a victim of the delusion that he can wrest satisfaction and happiness out of this world if he only manages well? Think about this line. It's the most important line in the big book, really. Is he not a victim? The word victim, by definition, means somebody that's been tricked or duped. Who tricks us? Who dupes us? Society. I went to school. I learned all this stuff. This is how it's supposed to be. Society, logic, it's great stuff. I can examine the evidence of my senses, come to reasonable approach and interpretation. I see and I'm experiencing. And what I'm experiencing is money, things, stuff, avoid pain, blah, 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 right? So I'm a victim. I've been tricked or duped of a delusion, of a lie. A lie that I believe, even though I can see evidence that it's not true, I still believe it. That's the key feature of a delusion, is I believe the lie, but when I look at the truth of it, I still believe it. I'm a victim of the delusion that money's going to make me happy, that women are going to make me happy, men are going to make me happy, that the validation I get from my peer group is going to make me happy. That if I just get this right job with this right amount of money and I blah, 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 and I just get this position. How many positions have we had where we thought it was going to do the trick and it never did the trick?
Never did the trick.
How many times was it the next woman or man that was going to like be that next thing, that next chess piece in your life that was going to take you to the next level and then everything was going to be okay? But it never worked out. But we don't take inventory in our lives until we get here. Then we can see these patterns. And as we look at the relationships, we can see cunning, baffling, powerful. What am I trying to get out of this person? How am I manipulating them? Why do I get angry? Why do I get jealous? Why am I doing the things that I do? Because I'm driven by 100 forms of fear that I'm not going to get what I want, and I'm afraid to lose what I fucking have. I'm driven by 100 forms of fear of self-delusion, self-pity, and self-seeking. And I'm going to step on the toes of my wife, and she's going to retaliate. And I'm going to be seemingly without provocation. But invariably, I find that sometime in the past, I made this decision based in self to try to hide something from her, and it later placed me in a position to be hurt. And maybe she's hurt for 5 years because she doesn't really trust me. Or whatever it is. It could be many different things. These decisions based in self. Right? I could not be a man of character and hide something from my friend, and then they find out and they never really fully trust me again. And then I'm like, dude, it's been like I'm your friend, man, like blood. Let's, like, we do this, man. He's like, no, man. And maybe it never winds up being the same. And going back to G's thing, the lesson's mine, man. I can blame him for being a fucker and making me not his friend and come up with rationalized excuses and reasons why he's not my friend when my buddy asks me, because my pride needs me to look okay. More mind and emotional manipulation, more unrigorous honesty, more fear of judgment.
Bedevilments.
Boom, boom, boom. All this shit. It's like, it's self. I do enough of that shit. I can't take it, man. I need relief. I need it now. It's always given it to me. I succumb to the desire. I pick up a fucking drink. Like, this is the real shit. Is he not a victim? Somebody that tricked or duped of a delusion, of a lie, that he can rest. Look how rest is spelled. W-R-E-S-T. It means wrestle. And when you look it up in the dictionary, it says to pry, grab, snatch, take. Gord was trying to pry, grab, snatch, take happiness and satisfaction out of this world. If he just fucking did it how he used to do it, because he had a lot of money before. But it didn't work this time. And it was causing him to get sicker and sicker and sicker, to the point where he was crushed by his own self-imposed crisis. He could no longer postpone or evade. Arrived at this point, and he had to fearlessly face the proposition that God was everything. Friendly hand stretched out in welcome. I was right there. You know, he tried to step from bridge to shore, and he finally did it. There's a reason why I pounded home all that we agnostic shit there over the last couple of weeks, because it all plays here. This is what we're trying not to do, is be a victim of these delusions, which is why we got to look at all the good ideas we think we have and the bad ideas. I'm going to want to get rid of judgment and gossip and all these things. But what about the things that I think are good for me? If I'm trying to get rid of the things that are bad because they block God, but I might be fucking blinded by things that I think are good that also block me, because I'm just a victim of a delusion in those things and I don't see it. So it actually blocks me from fucking humility and true progress and purity of heart. Which is why the guy who can't give up that job in Fort Mac that seems like it worked for him really didn't work for him, because he never finds what he's looking for. But he didn't get drunk. But he never found who he was. But it seems like, oh, it makes sense. It worked for him. And I look at it like, no, it didn't work for him, because he never found the truth of who he was. But he still had money, and he still lived in fear, and he still was at a level of water that he doesn't know that he didn't really want. But he doesn't know that the truth lies within the pain of not getting what he thought he wanted. Does that make sense? Okay. Is he not, in his best moments, a producer of confusion rather than harmony? Is anyone in their whole life a better producer of confusion rather than harmony? I am. Okay, let's keep going. So back to selfish self-centeredness, that we think is the root. The root. So 10 more minutes. We'll save the step 3 prayer for next time. The root of our troubles, underneath the soil of where the tree grows, is all the roots you can't see. But the life of that tree depends on everything you can't see. So for us, it's the same way. Everything we can't see that drives us powerfully, blindly, and subtly, we can't see it. But it's our need for fucking wanting some validation or social security or emotional security, companionship, sexual relation, material security. These things under the root. These are what causes our troubles. Driven by 100 forms of fear. My fear acts out in the defects of trying to take from you, or lying to my wife to get the affection, or whatever it might be that we do in the defective character. So it's one thing to say, oh, I'm angry, but anger isn't really a fucking defect. It's a big symptom of sadness and things that you haven't really seen yet. So if anger's still coming out, like powerfully, blindly, good luck controlling anger. I tried to control my anger my whole fucking life. That worked real well. The more that I suppressed it, the more it blew up later anyway. Why? Because it's energy. It's negative energy. It's got to go somewhere. It's like stuffing all this shit down and thinking that it's never going to go anywhere. Eventually, it's going to fucking go somewhere. And so how do I deal with anger? I eventually got to admit, like, I got to admit my issues. I got to admit that I'm a lying piece of shit. I got to admit that I cheat on my wife. I got to admit that I fucking look at pornography and that I objectify women. But that's antisocial. People don't want to hear about me watching porn and objectifying women. Yeah, until I admit this shit, I ain't fucking working through it and getting well from it. Whatever I resist will always persist. But I'm so worried about society judging me and me judging me. But I'm already judging me, so it doesn't fucking matter. But I'm more worried about you judging me. But that's necessary. And once I finally let whatever it is out that needs to come out, then I can actually work towards correction of it. Until that happens, there's no chance. But pride has such a protective mechanism over us that pride doesn't want to reveal itself, because pride is actually trying to be our friend, trying to protect us. The ego is trying to protect us so we don't get hurt. The problem is that it fucking hurts us and it destroys us. That's why in here we can laugh at the stupidest shit that's vulnerable or crazy, or you can tell somebody things that you could never talk about before. We're just like, oh, really? You did that stupid, embarrassing thing? Fuck, dude, I did that like 50 times. Don't worry about it, right? And that's what we do here. We fucking tell on ourselves. So it's at the root. We'll get way into this in the 6th step. We will go into the instincts. I'm talking about the instincts a lot here. I haven't really told you about them a lot, but that's what's driving all the defective character. Yeah. Driven by 100 forms, blah, blah, blah. Sometimes they hear this, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to go down next paragraph. So our troubles we think are basically of our own making. They arise out of ourselves. Think about that word arise. Gilbert, when you hear the word arise, what is it? What do you think? Right. Okay. It comes up. Something that comes up. That's the great answer. They arise out of ourselves. Where do they arise from? From the root of our troubles, which is in the instincts. So they're arising out of ourselves. Our troubles, I think, are all making. They arise out of ourselves. The problems that you have in life aren't the problems you have in life. Anything that's terrible about life that you think is there to make yourself more terrible, people judging you, people fucking you over, fucking women doing whatever, it's not there to make your life worse. It's there to make your life better. You're just not awake enough to learn the lesson yet. And the alcoholic is almost the most extreme example of self-will run riot that can be found. Other people are also self-will run riot, but we are like an extreme example because we have these instincts that they're always threatened, and we have so many of them. We'll really go into this in the 6, okay? But I won't get into it. So quickly, above everything, it's the only line in the big book that says that we alcoholics must be rid of this selfishness. We must, or it kills us. And look at how he writes here. We must, comma, or it kills us, exclamation mark. God makes that possible, period. So love makes that possible, let's say. And there seems no way entirely getting rid of him without him. Okay, I'm almost done. You may have moral and philosophical convictions galore, but you can't live up to them. We agnostics. If a mere code of morals or a better philosophy of life were sufficient to overcome alcoholism or get me better, we would have recovered long ago. We could wish to be moral. I wish I could live by the ways that I want to be. We could We could will these things with all of our might, but the needed power isn't there. I can't do this myself. I can't self-will me to fucking love you. I can't self-will me to forgive you. I can fucking pray on it and fucking try, but it's so much deeper than that. And we can say we let shit go, but you only let go. We only let go from the mind, and the ego wants to think that it's let go. The letting go doesn't come till you learned your lesson, and it's of the body. If we have a disease of mind and body, it's also the mind and the body that has to let it go. And you'll see anyone here in New Recovery in like 3 or 4 or 5 year mark, you'll have let go shit of the body and you'll be free. So if any of you have ever had an ex where you walk into the room and that fucking, the body remembers and the anxiety comes and your body gets hot and you're kind of out of sorts. If you do this work and you walk into that same room where you never thought you could and your body doesn't react because you've done so much work up here and within here that the body doesn't react, and then you actually let go and you're like, holy shit, I fucking healed, man. And that's what this shit is doing. Okay, here's the how and the why of it. First of all, we got to quit playing God doesn't work, blah, blah, blah. Quickly down here. He is the father, you his child. Get that simple relationship straight, period. This is a relationship that God is fucking the director and I am now the agent. Most good ideas are simple. And this concept, anyone know what a concept is? It's a fucking theory. This theory that God is the fucking director and I'm the agent, it's just a theory, is the keystone. If I can get this fucking concept straight, I can walk through to freedom through this keystone. But most people don't get it past a theory. So the ego loves to fucking think that it has God in its life just because. But without the action, God's not really in the life. But when I sincerely take the position, I fucking work my step 10. And I'm doing this shit for real. What happens? All these remarkable things start to follow. Having a new employer. I don't work for Johnny's Plumbing. I work for fucking God. I'm here to play a role that I'm assigned and learn my lessons and try to fucking be a great worker here. But having a new employer, God being all powerful, he must necessarily provide what I need if I do 2 things. My employer is going to pay me with freedom if I stay close to him and perform his work well. Through the performing his work well and staying close to him, maybe sometimes I got to learn a lesson and there's some fucking pain, but I still trust him. And then I heal and then he gives me what it was. But when I sincerely take the position is the point. And I have a new employer. So wherever we go to work, we don't work there. We work for God and we play the role we're assigned. Page 68, big book. I am there to play the role that I'm assigned. What's my role? I'm here to fucking try to be a good person, bring love, and work my step 6 wherever I am. And serve.
For a sec?
Yeah, dude.
I told you guys about my job and how I got that with Backley. And they were a failing company, okay? The entire management team, they fired everybody and hired me. That's how I got my job. Everyone else got fired. There were literally 2 people working there when I arrived there. And of course, the owners in Ontario were like, we got to market. But I have a new employer now. I have an employer. His name's God. And I got to do it by what Bill's talking about, the right way. Perform his work well, stay close to God. And when I audited all those files, I could see that they had collected money and work that had never, ever been even started. They had estimated and given approval but never started, or some jobs got halfway through and then they ghosted people. 42 files I went through, audited every single one of them, and I said, this isn't very good news, but you hired me to give you the truth. Here it is. And I gave it to them, and it wasn't a happy day. And they said, well, we've got to get out there and market. And I said, no, we don't. That is the last thing that we are going to do this year. And they were floored. They're like, what? What are you talking about? I said, well, let me explain. The only thing that you have to market right now is your integrity. And the only way to do that is to make every single one of these people whole again. It's the only position you have. It's the only way to move forward, maybe with some success. Do the right thing now. Maybe we get lucky enough to get an opportunity to do it again. And they thought about it, and they said, you know what? You have a point. And I said, you're damn right I have a point, because your reputation is shit here right now. And they said, we know enough. Right? Okay, Gord, we get it. And they said, okay, we'll do it your way. And that's exactly what I did. Me and 2 other people. And we started making people whole. And we made every single one of those people whole. I warned them that we might lose some clients. Anyway, we lost 1. And guess what? 5 years later, got them back. But it was all about doing the right thing. It wasn't about me anymore. It was about putting this into all aspects of my life. And I'd recognized that. I started doing it, and amazing things fell out of it. I'll tell you more about it next week. For sure.
Yeah, awesome. Fuck yeah. Thanks for that story. Okay, we're going to shut her down now.